These young women are for sale. Each one of them has a price, between 1,000 and 20,000 US dollars. It all depends on how beautiful they are, if they are still virgins, how slender, if they are light-skinned and light-eyed, and above all, if they are submissive. This is if they accept passively the torture and violations of their future masters. We are now in northern Iraq, between Dohuk and Mosul. For several years now, Iraq and Syria are countries that are partially occupied by Islamic State. We are about to arrive to the Sharia refugee camp in northern Iraq. This is where the refugees are staying, men, women and children, who arrived mainly from the area of Sinjar, an area occupied by Daesh, the Islamic State. We are now in the biggest Yazidi refugee camp in the world, the Sharia camp. This camp is home to 6,000 women and children, thousands of children, by the way, many of them only infants, who were taken by ISIS to the slave markets of Mosul in northern Iraq, a short distance away, as well as to the ISIS capital, Raqqa, in northern Syria. What happened to you?
يفاري ساعات السيدة طلقة مافانيان ساعات السيدة طلقة مافانيان أمنا نفستن هاتا ساعات شاشي يسبهي ديما مدرو نشتيبون وطلقة ديم تاعنا ما الدري ما يحوشيك هاد كوري مني ما زنب خوديش غير جدري حوشي فلتي تزاني الراس الدري حوشيك هاد قول كردري
نافد ما كرنا قرعة نافد مرة قادن بيسين وهرك داعشة كتاد يقا خود كيشا بني أكيلي در كدبان یک از ربال در کتیم سه روز از رباوی بوم و بالانگاز بتشتكي نبوس برما محكمة سبروتم.
Here, slavery and brutality from the Middle Ages that many thought disappeared from the world has appeared again. Thousands of men and women, mainly Yazidis and Christians, were assassinated by Daesh, the Islamic State activists. Very rarely there is an alternative to converting to Islam, but most times there is no choice. In recent weeks, some young women managed to return to their families and wish to tell us what they have suffered, with one condition: remaining incognito, because they all have husbands, fathers and brothers, sons or even small children who are still in the hands of Islamic State. Jamila, of 15 years, was kidnapped and held for 5 months in the hands of the radicals. As she's very beautiful, she was sold as a personal slave to the emir, the leader of a town controlled by ISIS.
اشتيوسات يستري ما إحساسه كما نما براستي يعني داري خو يعني تهردو شافت خو تبيني زاروك هاف سالي اختسابك شو زحمة ترنينا
Sabaya. This is the name that makes all these young women quiver when they hear it. It is the slaves' market of Mosul, Iraq, just a few kilometers away from the camp, and that of Raqqa, the Islamic State's capital in Syria. The Yazidi women are the main victims.
اليوم سوق السبايا، اليوم سوق وما ملكت ايمان، اليوم التوزيع. باذن الله عز وجل، كلنا نصيب. والله يا رجل انا ادور ان شاء الله يعني واحد جديد واحد ابو فهد اليوم سوق السبايا لازم ناخذ. عفوا
The Yazidis are approximately 1 million people. They are dispersed in various Middle Eastern and European countries, half of them being in Iraq. They belong to a Pacific religion, originating from ancient Mesopotamia with thousands of years of history, who suffered more than 70 different genocides through the last millennium. Their religion believes in nature, and they always pray in the direction of the sun. According to their calendar, They are currently in the year 6666. According to them, their people are victims of an organized genocide, which the world is painfully ignoring. During the 5 days we were there, we did not see not one journalist in the area, and not even one international aid organization. It is a desert of indifference with just a few surprises.
אנחנו עוברים פה ואנחנו רואים כאן חיילים כורדים, פשמרגה, עיראקים.
יש לי ילדים ויש לי נכדים בארץ. אני חיה עם התמונה שלהם מול העיניים שלי, מול העיניים שלי. לא פה, נכון? כן, כן פה, סורי. דאעש כן מסתובבים פה. יש מפעילים כאן, סמויים. צריך לדעת למי ללכת, למי להתחבר, ולהיות מאוד זהיר בנושא הזה.
זה לא ירושלים תל אביב פה. את נוהגת פה כאילו את בבית.
זה הבית שלי, אני בבית. אני בבית. מצאת את המילה הנכונה, מילה לא צפויה, אמריקאי. זה הפך להיות הבית שלי, אין לי הסבר. הפכתי לאם משפחה שלי.
Lisa Miara is a British-born Israeli who lives in Jerusalem for 40 years now. In 1998, her oldest son was serving in the army when he was brutally attacked by a Palestinian mob who tried to kill him while stealing his weapon.
קיבלתי ילד בחזרה באותו יום בחדרי ניתוח של הדסה עין כרם. ילד מרוסק באופן פיזי כמובן ובאופן נפשי, וזה שנה לי את החיים בשנייה.
But that wasn't all. 4 years later, in 2002, her son brushed death again when a suicide bomber exploded in the Moment Cafe in Jerusalem. The next day, her son had to bury some of his best friends.
ואני באופן אישית, התגובה שלי זה התגובה של אתה הטרור, העזת להיכנס לבית שלי, הגעת לבית הלא נכון. אני לא אתן לך לשבור אותנו, אני לא אתן לך לנצח אותנו. אם הטרור עשה את זה לבן שלי, אני אהיה עוד יותר גרוע לבן שלי אם הוא לא יתרומם ויקום על הרגליים וימשיך.
Lisa decided to establish an NGO for humanitarian assistance. In the last 2 years, she managed to organize a network of clandestine smugglers who go to the ISIS markets in Raqqa and Mosul and buy off women and children in order to liberate them back to their families.
او گروپی مش پیش یعنی پیش احتیاطش قال سه هشت 2014 ما دست به شغل خاکر اما کی گروپ کیون ما دست وی کاری کرد اوش ما شبكه كخل رخدا عجز تشيغريا وجي هفال انا وقت بيجي ندى عشان او هفال مين اللي رخينا او شبكه ما توسع كر يعني وقت بيجي ما بفرح كر حتى انه جي هاي ما برفرت هرو برفرت به او تليفونات قالت كانوا تنسيق ما قالها ما عندك هفال هنا خد هنا كشكيك تليفوننا بيجي معلومات او موعده جدنته بيشتي موعدي ما هفال خد بريتنا مع عمليه خاص ندرت خنتنا.
Every week, Islamic State publishes on the internet photographs of women and children which will be traded in the markets the next day.
והילדים הקטנים, את סיפרת לי שהם מגיעים לפה, אלה שאתם הצלחתם לשחרר, ולפעמים בגלל שהם תרגלו עם דאעש כל מיני עריפות ראשים של חתולים וכאלה, מה קורה להם כשהם מגיעים לפה?
איך אומרים? they're brainwashed. זה כבר הפך להיות חלק מה-DNA שלהם, להתפלל 5 פעמים ביום, לערוף, להרוג, להכין הגורות נפץ, להכין את כל הדברים. הם גייסו אותם, גם ילדים בני 4, שעזרנו בשחרור וכרגע אנחנו בתוך השיקום שלהם. ילדים בני 4, הם חיילים קטנים, וילד בגילה נכנס לאוהל, ראה את אחותו ישנה, לקח סכין, נסע להרוג אותה.
The young Yazidi Bazad is attentive 24 hours a day, following the social networks.
تشي بلابي ومتابعك بتوثيق وان عندك حالات مديت مثلا فيسبوك كده مثلا وقت دي عرض كان حالتك أو وقت فيزو هفالك محددة هين أو هندك جروبات هين جروبات محدد بس أو تدا وقت كيشكي عرض كان بتشكي عرض كان مثلا بيجن مثلا كبيجن كيشكي بيجن سبيل للبيع عمري فقرات إذا بحس كان تشي جنسي بحس كان مثلا بابو جنسية شاوة شاوية يعني هندك تشت قلق تشت أو يعني وقت بيجن سوكي تشت كان كزوتر بيت أفروتن شو اللي من يدي توثيقة هزر داعش كتابة مقالات مجلات تقارير فيديو تصوير أفان تشا حمام توثيق كين أو بسيارك تشمك تقول تم هزر كين داعش خلاص بك.
Is Lisa helping you to release women from ISIS and from Syria?
عندك حالة ما قلتي هاري كاريا كريو كيشك هاتي نجيب ما كنت بيجي مقابلة ليزا جيت قلوان كريو هاتينا فيدريا تأكيد إذا بيجي منه وياك جوانيت قال ليزا مساعدة كري إنه تشافي ملك هتوي الفيدريا هيك سوريا هاتينا مساعدة ويكري زيري
Zeri, a 25-year-old girl, was pregnant when she and her two daughters, 5 and 7, were captured by Daesh activists in the Sinjar area in Iraq. The day she was kidnapped, in August 2014, 5,000 Yazidi men were beheaded.
راسي أزو بيبينا البعمو بيبي الرقامابو وأزبر ما تهتمر أزو هردوكا تشخب تنيبو هات أزش مقار كريمة بزورة وكا قوم آفد في قوتا مرابا ومقوس رانابا بزورة أسراكر مجل كده رشاني نقوي عتلبار خوكي أزبر ما عليكي أزبر ما الشقة كيزو لم يعمونا أزو هردو زارد من برنا الشقة كيدا تقريبا 5 دروجات الباوي ودورا أمي إيش مرة بيز براسي هردي مراد بو منو زارد مي قلت بجام ناكي راب متى هردي مراد بو مي وزد شدان دي مراد بو مي
15-year-old Iman was sold for $1,000 after being separated from her mother Nofa and from her 2 younger sisters. The girls were taken to military bases of Islamic State and were violated as much as 10 times per day by the radicals. The 4 women live in the Sharia refugee camp and refuse to give up hope despite the traumas inflicted by 9 months of torture.
ترونينا وحتى فنام دانين مانينا أباقع شنغالا بوغال وريا كي شرجي كريجي ما دي بيجا جافي خو سريجي كريبول بالنجدوي دانيو وأفيز بجم كريمة تامن كن هاوي كشتيبو خوين الجهوي ردات هي مراسر سكني.
Zeri's son, who was born while she was held captive, was taken away by ISIS to be educated as a Muslim and was baptized under the name of Omar. Zeri tried to run away with her daughters from her owner's house in Raqqa and was held imprisoned for 1 week. She was then sold again in the local market.
خدي أبو عبد الله بعمر جبابي من ماستر وتقدم إلا اغتصابكم يعني سبي ما بعتها براسي هذا بعمل بزور بس هرديم از قريام وراد بوم وراد وزارم أسبوع كيل بالبوم وسفرقته سفرقت مع أبو حمزة مخافي تبلنجوي مكوها كتد في أزيم غلامتي عواكم غامنينا غش خدامي رجورة بس عالمنا بحملة غو خدامي عم بكا مو غامنينا هرديم خدامي عوانت كر وتشو جنا خدرتي خست وتهات هر مثلا
Iraq to allocate a plot of land in order to build a psychiatric hospital for these women and children. Today, Lisa's NGO Springs of Hope decided to give out to all the children of the camp some photo cameras as part of their rehabilitation treatment. These young women liberated in recent weeks are about to go through a powerful experience. Iman and Jamila are getting their makeup and hair done and are getting dressed up in order to participate in an event that they will never forget. It is a fashion show to former ISIS sex slaves. Spread across the table are the clothes they used to wear when they were under captivity. Zeri is incapable of participating in the fashion show because she finds it impossible to bury the memory of her ordeal and that of her daughters, including 7-year-old Lamia.
ردنا أبو مالك فلسطيني ودي برماني في عائلة إخوة كلك الباوينة مامس دور شاروشا مام مالاوان ويجي هرقوتم قمنا تشتكي لك رجو هكذا قانش بيت خدام يا مكير قلت الباما بيمو قمنينا الزوجار تدخل غرفة النفستيبون أو مثلا بعائلتي خوبا جارك الدور ساعة شهر هات كذا غرفة ما ودريك وملابسك لينا وهردو زارو مباري مخو حسيان كرنا قوتيني ورابو مي قوشماتا اتما زارو تتكنا قوتيني اسكريام مكرا قوتيني.
The high temperature of 113 degrees in the shade does not help calm the nerves. In front of all the Iraqi television cameras and public, Lisa makes an unexpected and possibly dangerous confession.
I would like to read a few words. It was written by a man who knew in times of trouble to look to God for his help. And he wrote a song about my people, the Jewish people. The name of this song is We Were Like Dreamers. Dreamers, those who dream, Homim. And today as a strong nation, we bring our song back to you. We say to you, friends, yes, you are broken, but dream again.
You have here Iran, you have here the Islamic State so close to us, really. And you are saying you're an Israeli to everyone. How come?
In the beginning, I tried to hide it. It's very hard to hide your identity for a long period of time. And within a few months, it came out. It didn't come out at my choice. And then I made a very calculated decision that if it's right for me to be here, people need to know who I am, because we have such parallel histories, the Jewish people and the genocide here. And I found, in fact, that doors opened, which shouldn't have opened, because I came from Israel.
From this moment onwards, the security measures tighten around Lisa, but she decides to take the liberated children to the Yazidi Mecca, the town of Lalish, which is even closer to the ISIS militants' whereabouts. This is the holy Yazidi town. According to tradition, everybody must run 3 times back and forth between 2 holy stones in order to cleanse their sins. The most important moment is the meeting with the Baba Sheikh, the main spiritual leader of the Yazidis, considered to be a saint to his own people.
We spoke with many, many women who were slaves only some weeks ago in Syria, in Raqqa, in Mosul, and now they are here and we don't see revenge and anger. How come?
أنا زوجك عشيرات دي انتقامي بن بس كان قانونها بيت أزو أو فرقنا بن قانون ديمقراطي بيت حمود بيجن ديمقراطي هكذا أمر زكيمين أم تعديل خلقنا زني الله 5,000 برن بجرم چوكي نا كهرباء نا آبا نا تشتكى نا دي چاوة زبرنا.
And we ask the international community to help us in a humanitarian way. We have now in Kurdistan about 1.6 million IDP and refugees. The IDPs from all the other part of Iraq, and the refugees are from Syria. So we ask the international community to help us in a humanitarian way to help these people.
Zari's husband, Jamil, has disappeared on the same day she was kidnapped. Nobody knows if he's dead or alive, and until the end of the war, she's not allowed to remarry. There are thousands of cases like hers. Recently, when Zari was in the capital city of Islamic State, Raqqa, her father-in-law, Saidu, received a surprising and alarming call, an ultimatum.
ما طريقة أبو شجاع واسطة وانو وأوا سوريا بالرقائب ما بدي دفترة وبيز ورقة علي مكري السيستم هاي عن زدهات 2015 شلو بكون مجبور بو خدي الشخص.
It was one of the messengers in Khalil's network, Abu Sujja, who already helped return hundreds of slaves from ISIS.
اسمها كيلبالبو واسفروت ما جماعة أبو الشجاع أبو الشجاع هربي ما.
With the help of Lisa's NGO and neighbors from the refugee camp, Zari's father-in-law managed to put together all the money on time. The distances are very short. 45 minutes after the delivery of the ransom to the terrorists, a car coming from Mosul appears at the Yazidi refugee camp. It is Zari and her 3 children, including Omar, who is replaced with the Yazidi name of Sujja, the name of his liberator. This is how this young women's nightmare comes to an end, who through a year and a half was sold 7 times along with her children in the slave markets of the Islamic State. At Sharia camp they say that ISIS still holds more than 3,000 women and children in captivity.
This is a genocide, and I think the world should be absolutely ashamed and disgraced that the governments and powers that be did not immediately reckon this as a genocide, did not send in everything that was needed from troops to finance. This could have been taken care of 2 years ago, I'm sorry. It is a shame and disgrace, and it shows that there are people groups which are disposable in a second.
قدي ما هي في قدي ودولتها هاي ما فرابن ما أقل شيء مين وجنتنا فانزار واش تستدعى اشترينا ما شارو جدي زارو ما عمري وان هالسالم وما زين بن أوي إنا شريمة قدي قاسي يعني عائلتي ما هم وزارو البيرا مرتين.
Now everything depends on the conscience of the international community.
In this last documentary, we met Lisa Miara, who established Springs of Hope, an NGO dedicated to support the Yazidi community. Lisa spends more time in Iraq than in Israel, but we were lucky to meet her at her Jerusalem home right before traveling back to the refugee camp in northern Iraq. Lisa has dedicated her life to helping the Yazidi community and has also worked to free Yazidi women through their purchase at the IS slave markets. However, this is something her NGO decided they can no longer do. Lisa Miara, an inspiring woman who won't give up on the Yazidis.
I take the DNA of Jerusalem with us. I take the DNA of, I believe, close to 20 years of working with those who faced death and survived terrorist attacks here. I take our DNA of this city to Iraq.
You feel safe when you're in Iraq?
Oh, totally, totally. I mean, totally. It's a country where there's very little, well, not international, but between city road signs. And like some places, they have a name both in Kurdish and in Arabic. And so you can be driving towards Erbil, and suddenly you won't see Erbil, you'll see Hola. And if you don't know Hola is Erbil, you think, where the heck has Erbil gone to? And there's no GPS systems, there's no maps. and you just have to guess it. You head for the basic direction, and I think the whole concept of Iraq is scary. The border, Iran, is scary. But if you're one that obeys the rules and stays within the Kurdish regional government, which is full of Peshmerga, where ISIS did not infiltrate and will not infiltrate, there's no reason to fear.
And what does your family say about this?
My family are like most. You know, you can say you're doing a good work, but enough. I can remember my son lying here on this sofa one Friday night, you know, really chilled. And he just suddenly said to me, "Ma, do you ever think that when you're in Iraq that you have kids and you have grandkids?" And I said to him, "Sweetie," I said, "believe me, you're in front of my eyes 24/7. And I said, "I hope one day there will come some comprehension of the enormity of an Israeli Jew living inside Iraq as one, with full recognition of the zehut and the identity."
Lisa, we're sitting here in Jerusalem, in your home in Jerusalem, and yet you say you're living in Iraq.
Yes.
and you earlier mentioned that that feels like home.
It's become home. And it needed to become home in order to have the depth and the breadth and the height of relationship. This is long term. I mean, I've said to my guys there, and I've said it half kidding, but who knows, just over the mountain, there's the tomb of our Jewish prophet Nahum. Just an hour's drive away in another direction, there's Amedi, where there's a Jewish graveyard for one person. For one person, it's that tiny. But a Jewish community used to live there. And I've said to my guys, if ever I die here, please dump me, my bones, either in Amedi or in Nahum. I don't want to go back to Israel. And I said it one day to some friends here. I said, in case anything ever happens, please don't let my kids waste money bringing my body back here to stick it in a piece of ground here. There's my home. I want to live with these people, and I want to die with these people.
Some time has passed since Enrique shot the documentary, and we saw a few of the Yazidi women that were freed. What's the situation like now?
The situation is basically still the same. It's to be there for the long haul. I think what is different is that I'm seeing and meeting and over periods of time where relationship is really built through establishment of programs, for example, a sewing factory, a video therapy program for kids who've come out of Daesh, and also just for the continuity of doing life there, of being willing to be in the tents at 50 degrees in the summer and in -10 in the winter with all the mud, and have setting up a base. I think there's trust and relationship that is now enabling them to feel confident with us and to release their stories. I'm seeing more and more of the breaking of the lies of these kids. One of our kids who I knew had not been radicalized. He's only about 5 years old. But his story finally came out. And the story was that in this place where they were being held captive, where there were several Yazidi women and kids, there were some young Yazidi kids crying, like baby toddlers age. And some of the captors took these kids and bashed them on the floor until they killed them. So is anything different? Yes, they're talking. They're talking now. And I just can't deal with the apathy of the West, and I can't deal with the silence of the West. I just run out of words, Michal. I run out of words.
Kids that went through the horrors that you describe, what kind of treatment and how do you reverse such radicalization?
My answer is I don't know. And I would actually defy anybody who's even qualified to say that they know. When a child gets up at whatever time it is, 4 a.m. in the morning, because he's used to praying, and tries to force the entire tent to bow down and to worship Allah, is that these people don't respond in anger or frustration or like, I want to sleep, just get back and sleep. But they manage to divert the attention and to love on them with such patience that I think this is the best de-radicalization program.
And the market is still operating?
There's two things that are still operating. Trying to sell them back to the families through the slave markets, particularly of Raqqa. And if you're and there are those that do have to connect with captors and Daesh in order to get this information. We have contributed definitely to the purchase of a couple of women. There's no question about it. One, I had no idea we were doing that. The second one, I did know. And it was one of those decisions. She'd been sold 14, 15 times. And I broke. I broke when I saw her family, like her extended family. But we can't do it. We can't do it. We don't operate inside the slave markets, no. If I personally, if I was a philanthropist and I had the money, for goodness sake, let's put $3-4 million down and buy all these women out and get them back home. For goodness sake. I wish somebody like that would stand up. End the agony, because you walk around in the camps and you're living under the shadow of death the whole time.
You revealed who you are. Why did you do it?
Wow, I debated quite a while concerning making a stand that I'm Jewish and that I'm Israeli on a public. I had let it be known in governmental meetings and in private meetings. I felt and I feel that being Israeli is key to us being there. There is an honor for Israel, there's a respect, both amongst the Yazidi people and amongst the Kurds. They see the historical parallels. They see the governmental and strategic and military parallels. And I also knew that I would never be able to live there and to be who I am if I'm hiding who I am. And it was in a sense like testing the waters to see what would happen. But I knew that I was walking into a very volatile position where both exposing myself and it going out on the media, it was shifting me into a very public place, which I don't desire and I don't want. I'm just happy to stay under the radar. Let me do my job. We lost, as a well-funded NGO, we lost 98% of our funding in the last year from both the Jewish community and what I suppose would be the evangelical community, really through a lack of understanding. I mean, people will say it to my face. We give money to Jews or Israelis in Israel, to works inside Israel, within the Jewish community. We don't give to other persecuted groups in the Middle East. So after, say, 2002 to 2016, it's really starting from scratch.
I mean, how do you react to that? How does that make you feel?
How it makes me feel that people are exceptionally narrow-minded. I've lost the majority of my personal friends.
What is the most important thing you want people to see and hear?
Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of the unknown. Don't be afraid of people who are different from you. Come. Just come. Your lives will be changed. And I think it's a win-win, but I think it's us who are winning more.
So 10 years from now, how do you see the Yazidi community?
Sadly, I see the majority of them exactly as they are. 400,000 people living in tents with no hope. I want to see us embracing From an educational perspective, the women and the kids who've been out of Daesh for more than 1 year, because there is an Iraqi law saying that those who've been outside the education system for 1 year are not entitled to return. And it's like, come on, these kids are special need. These women need to be given more chances because their husbands are in mass graves. So I would like to see us in a place of stability in the community where we can say, yes, we're contributing to education, to health, and to getting out of the camps, and to give you something that is sustainable, and then you can run with it and you can be the examples for others.
And we're very happy to have in studio Enrique Zimmerman, journalist and the filmmaker of this very special documentary. Hello to you.
Hello, Michelle.
So Enrique, do tell us, first of all, how did you meet Lisa? This is really such a unique story to see an Israeli Jewish woman traveling and really becoming a part of the Yazidi community in northern Iraq. How did you encounter it first?
Well, you know, I heard about an organization, humanitarian organization, led by an Israeli lady who had some dramas here in Israel. Her son was involved in 2 terrorist attacks in Jerusalem and in the West Bank. And I heard about that, by the way, in the Vatican when I was meeting the Pope. And he spoke with me about the lack of interest in the international community in northern Iraq to try to help both Christians and Yazidis. And he said there is an organization called Springs of Hope that I know that I heard about that. And then I read and I saw it's an Israeli lady, so I called her. And she said to me, do you want to come with me to northern Iraq? And I'll show to you what's going on there. And that's the way.
Lisa said she's not scared in northern Iraq. She said, not at all. Do you feel the same way?
You mean me, myself?
Yes. Are you
no,
scared?
We must be always scared, you know, because I was with Lisa in her car and she got lost. And we were close, very close to Mosul, controlled by the Islamic State. So you must be very aware. It's true, she's really a very, very brave lady. And I can see, I saw her, I observed her when she was in front of the Iraqi TV and she was saying, I'm Jewish, I'm Israeli. That was quite remarkable. And in
it's a very brave and difficult decision to make.
Absolutely. But she said, I prefer to be myself, saying to them that if they discover it afterwards, and they will come after me. So she has the cooperation of the government, the Kurdish government, and they are helping her to fulfill her dream, which is creating a hospital in Dohuk, in the northern Iraq.
And I want to talk about the sex slave. First of all, in your documentary, you show that Lisa is involved in the purchasing of women who are slaves in order to free them. Lisa said they no longer do this. They decided not to contribute to the sex slave, to the slave market, even if it means not saving these girls in this way. What do you think about that, and what is the most effective way to save these women?
Well, first of all, it's a dilemma for Lisa. I understand her, because sending smugglers with money, in a way, you're financing a terrorist group, maybe the most important terrorist group today in the world. But at the same time, there is a real question, moral question, what to do. You know, Michelle, I heard this morning, they still have 2,300 girls in the camps, in the slave markets.
So right now it's operating and 2,000 girls. And we're talking girls, 2,300, ages 10, 11, 7 sometimes.
Exactly, till I think 22, 23. And they were sold last week in Mosul and in Raqqa. They publish in the internet their pictures Monday, and Tuesday they were sold. And and that's happening for more than 2 years now. And nobody's doing nothing. And I must tell you, when I first went there...
How do you explain this? You know, nobody's doing nothing. I mean, Islamic State is in the headlines everywhere, and yet the Yazidi women and girls that are being sold as sex slaves at ages that are unimaginable, and nothing's being done. How can everyone turn a blind eye? The international community, this is not making headlines, if anything.
Everyone is involved in the military campaign against the Islamic State. 67 countries. It's a kind of a world war over there, both in Syria and in Iraq. So they don't deal with the other aspects, which are critical, in my opinion. You know, Shimon Peres,
who was the president of Israel and was the Nobel Prize, Peace Nobel Prize, he heard about that, and he asked me and Lisa to come and see him some months ago, and when I came back from Iraq. And we went there, and he said, I'm ready to lead an international campaign, asking the world to do something. But unfortunately, he passed away, so I think we should find someone else to do that. Maybe the General Secretary of the UN, who is now new, Antonio Guterres. I know he's very sensitive to that. I believe the world must wake up. This is something that should be stopped. And I'm not talking only about the women, also about the boys and girls, 5, 6, 7 years old that were radicalized.
Exactly. Absolutely. So, future of the children and the Yazidi community as a whole that today are living as refugees.
I heard some of them came back from the slave market. They were released, and they are still with the same clothes they had when they were in the Islamic State. So it's quite a shame, this fact. I think the world should do something immediately to go there and to try to help to put an end to these shots. You saw these images we brought from the slave markets. This is something that can't be in 2017 in the world.
It can be, and it just can't be ignored anymore. Enrique, thanks so much for bringing this story forth, a very important story, which I hope will make waves. We'll have to leave the discussion at that, but don't worry, tomorrow we'll have an entire new topic and a fresh documentary. Be sure to join us. Thank you for watching.